won't believe what this dog did for her owner. Meet Sky. She was a stray dog for half of her life and very malnourished. Until a man named Franz Durpel took Sky into his home. He said Sky was the best family pet they ever had. She was always there for them. On a daily basis, Sky and her owner always went out to sea on their boat. Franz would always go out spearfishing while Sky waited on the boat. But one evening while he was spearfishing, something terrible happened. He was in the water spearfishing when two sharks started to circle below him. He thought his life was over. There was no escaping this. But Sky immediately noticed what was happening and jumped in after her owner. The sharks were stunned by an unexpected splash and went straight to Sky. Unfortunately, the sharks went straight for an attack and Sky was immediately killed. Franz Durpel then got to his boat safely. The dog Sky risked her whole life to save her owner. Now that's truly a loyal dog. You won't believe what this man did to save his kitten. This is an Australian man named Nick Kearns. One night, Nick was sound asleep when he woke up to a strange sound that he heard outside. Not even having time to get dressed, Nick ran outside to see what has happened. What he saw was terrible. His beloved kitten was getting strangled by an anaconda. While this man was fully naked, he jumped straight into action. He went straight to the anaconda and did everything he could to set his kitten free. After a while of trying to get the snake off, he said he saw his kitten starting to slow down. Nick said he put his hand right behind the snake's head and put all of his effort in to release his kitten. Thankfully, his kitten got set free, but that wasn't the end for Nick. After saving his kitten's life, unfortunately he got bit by the anaconda right on his hand. Nick ran away with the kitten in his hand straight into his house. He said he got treatment for his bite right on time. And Nick and his kitten both ended that night alive and safely. You won't believe what this celebrity did to save a man's life. You probably know who this man is, but if you don't, this is the iconic Jamie Foxx. Jamie was relaxing in his house one day when he heard a large crash come from outside. He immediately rushed outside and had no clue what had happened. But then, there to his eyes, he saw a truck right beside his house flipped over and burning in flames. Jamie noticed a man was in the burning truck and couldn't get out. He immediately took action and went over to the man's window and broke all the glass. And then, amazingly, he got the man's seatbelt off of him and pulled him out of the burning car. Jamie thankfully pulled out the elderly man, Brett Cowell, right on time. Brett said if it wasn't for Jamie coming to the rescue, he probably wouldn't be here today. He says he's forever thankful for the heroic act Jamie Foxx did. Jamie and Brett actually still keep up to this day and are very close friends. You won't believe what this man caught on camera. A man named John Lang was an American activist who exposed the dirt and corruption of the police system. His allegations about the police system were very serious and very disturbing. John's words started to spread around the world and powerful people started to become upset. After all of his allegations started spreading, he became very uneasy and thought that he was being watched. So he then set up cameras all around his house that would record 24/7. After his house cameras were set up, he started to see mysterious people walking by his house and looking over his gate, and also strange vehicles parked in front of his house. But on this one occasion, John saw something very disturbing. A van was stopped and they were pointing an infrared camera right at his house. But when the people in the van noticed they were being recorded by John's house camera, they closed the door and sped off. After this, John was scared for his life, so he started asking for help on Facebook. Just 1 week later, after the van with the infrared camera pulled up to his house, he put his final post on Facebook saying if anything happens to me in the next couple of days, it was the police. Just 10 days later, after his Facebook post, his body was found burned and stabbed. You won't believe what this man did to save his dog. This is the Australian man Greg Tonkin. He was out hunting one morning with his beloved dog. After walking around for a while to find the perfect hunting spot, he noticed that his dog wasn't with him. But then, to his eyes, he saw his dog in a chokehold with a kangaroo. But kangaroos are strong and very vicious. But amazingly, Greg ran straight to the kangaroo and was determined to stop him. The kangaroo was startled that the man ran up on him and thankfully the dog got free. But then Greg went on to square up with the kangaroo and punch him in the face. This could have ended very badly, but Greg said he did this because he couldn't watch his beloved dog get hurt. Wait, if you guys want unlimited Unreal stories, just click the link in my bio and thank me later. You won't believe what these stray dogs did to save a newborn baby's life. A mother in India had birth to a premature baby, but sadly she did not accept her child into her life. So 2 days after her child was born, she threw her infant into a sewer drain. She put her baby into a bag and death was almost certain for the young child. But 3 stray dogs that were walking by heard the baby crying in the sewer and went straight to help. The stray dogs pulled the child out of the sewer trying to save her life. All of the dogs started barking as loud as they could to catch someone's attention that was walking by. Then one citizen walking by noticed that the dogs were barking non-stop and wanted to see what they were barking about. And there to his eyes, he saw the infant child crying for help. He then immediately called the police. When the emergency team got to the scene, the infant child was immediately rushed to the hospital. Unfortunately, the baby suffered severe head injuries. She then was put into several surgeries trying to save her life. Thankfully, the infant survived through all of this and is fine. And the mother that did this tragedy is behind bars now. This true story of a young boy who remembered his past life will freak you out. A Syrian boy was born with a long red birthmark across his head. At 3 years old, when he was old enough to talk, he told his parents he remembered having a different life. He told his parents that he had been killed by an axe to the head. And the spot the young boy pointed at was his birthmark. And if that's not it, he told his parents the village that they lived at was the exact same one he used to live in. He said he even remembered his name, so the parents decided to ask an elder that lived there for quite some time. The old man that they asked said that person has been missing for years. But this is when it gets even more crazy. The boy told his parents that he remembered the name of the person that murdered him. The man the little boy said was still living in the village. So of course, like anybody would, they went and confronted the killer. When the family confronted the killer, his face went white, but he told them that he had no clue what they were talking about. After that, the young boy then took his parents to where he was buried at. They started digging at the spot the boy told them to, and then they found a skeleton with a wound to the head. Come back for part 2 to hear what happens next. This true story of a young boy who remembered his past life will freak you out. When they unearthed the skeleton, the wound on its head directly corresponded the young boy's birthmark. And if that's not it, they went on to find the axe that was buried right beside the body. And the man that murdered the boy was watching from afar and watched them unearth the boy who he killed. The murderer then went up to the family and admitted the crime. And the murderer was the same guy that told the little boy's family he did not know what they were talking about. He said he was actually neighbors with the boy and they got into a fight and he hit him with the axe that accidentally killed him. The murderer felt very guilty and was relieved he got it off his chest. So maybe that birthmark on you might mean something after all. Wait, if you guys want unlimited unreal stories, just click the link in my bio. This true story about a boy who claims he is a time traveler will freak you out. This is Noah and he has claimed he has traveled back from the year 2030. But the real crazy thing about this is, it's not just that he told the future, but as he made all of his claims, he passed the lie detective test, not failing once. He claims he has risked his whole life to tell the people in the present what is going to happen in the future. One of the first things Noah stated was that Donald Trump will be re-elected in 2020. Also, Noah has made all of his claims in 2018 and has not been seen since. All that he is saying about the future seems fake, but his claims are adding up. Noah says that humans will make it to Mars by the year 2028. And SpaceX is actually sending their first ship to Mars in 2022. He then says by the year of 2028 we will have concrete evidence of aliens and time travel will be released to the public. And very soon the government is actually releasing a document about a UFO project. He then states that we will have implant chips put into our bodies that will benefit you. And Elon Musk is actually working on this right now. But it gets far too creepy when he meets himself of the present day. Come back for part 2. This true story about a boy who claims he is a time traveler will freak you out. This is Noah. He claims that he is a time traveler from the year 2030. In 2018, he did an interview with himself from the future. Supposedly, this is Noah from the year 2070, and let me tell you how creepy this gets. So somehow, a message was sent to each other to meet up in present time. To confirm that they are the same person, they both have the same implant chip in the exact same spot in their hand. They said this chip was to prevent paradoxes, so it can control your brain and nothing will be out of order. They both told very personal information to each other that no one would have known unless they were the same person. They talked to each other about the diseases that will be cured and how artificial intelligence will almost take over. So Noah in 2030 says they are talking about another huge war, like World War III, and I don't think we need that. But Noah's future self actually states there will be a war, but it will be a war like you've never seen before and it will be very bad. They state that a lot of changes are about to happen, so be ready. This is a true story about how cannibalism was the only way these men survived. In 1972, a rugby team from Uruguay was traveling to Chile for a match. But the only problem was they were traveling by plane and there was a big blizzard coming for them. The pilots seemed to think there was no problem, so they headed off for their journey. When they were flying over the Andes Mountains, the pilots didn't know where they were and were losing visibility. So for this, unfortunately, the plane crashed near a snowy mountaintop. Many people died from this crash, but there were survivors. But the only problem for the survivors, the temperature and weather were almost impossible to live in. The men had to take action and protect themselves from the cold weather. But the 16 survivors were hoping to get rescued after the crash, but that was not the case. The men looked through all the luggage on the plane so they would have something to eat. But the only thing they found was a couple candy bars and wine. After 8 days of searching from the rescue team, they were unable to find the plane and men, so they called off the rescue. The men were giving up and losing hope of survival, until one of the men said we should eat the corpse on board. This story gets so much crazier, so come back for part 2. This true story about a girl who woke up in her coffin will freak you out. This is 16-year-old Nessie Perez. At the time, she was 3 months pregnant and just married when something very strange happened. One night, Nessie got up in the middle of the night to go use the bathroom. But as she was walking straight to the bathroom, she collapsed. It was said she had a severe panic attack after hearing gunshots right outside of her house. Nessie's parents woke up that morning and found her lying on the ground. But Nessie's parents didn't take her to the hospital. Instead, they called a priest. They believe Nessie was actually possessed. The priest showed up at their house immediately and performed the exorcism. Well, that didn't work out, so then she was rushed to the hospital. Nessie spent 3 hours at the hospital when she was pronounced dead. After a few hours after Nessie was pronounced dead, they arranged a funeral. Nessie's parents were absolutely devastated. When Nessie's husband came just a day later, he heard muffling noises coming beneath him. It was almost like somebody was screaming in the coffin wanting to get out. Just wait for part 2. This true story about a girl who woke up in her coffin will freak you out. When the husband of Nessie Perez heard her screaming in her own coffin, he immediately called all of her family members. Her whole family immediately rushed to the site and unearthed her coffin. In wariness, they broke open the coffin to save her life. They then again immediately rushed her back to the hospital. They tried reviving her and did many tests on the young girl, but unfortunately she was pronounced clinically dead. Doctors say that she had a severe panic attack which caused her heart to stop. And when she was taken to the hospital, doctors were too quick to say she was dead. So she was buried, and when she was woke up, she was confined in her coffin. Unfortunately, this caused her to suffocate to death. The family said she had bruises on her forehead and scratches on her body from trying to get out. Now that is one way no one wants to go out. Wait, if you guys want unlimited, unbelievable stories, just click the link in my bio.